Hi, welcome to Paranormal Kativity. I want to discuss with you today tulpas. Basically what a tulpa is it's a sentient imaginary friend that has its own will, its own behaviors, its own opinions, and it just kind of does its own thing all the time around you. I was introduced to this concept through a subreddit completely devoted to tulpas, creating tulpas, other people who have tulpas. I was just blown away by this concept, so I just had to share it with you guys because I find it so bizarre and interesting. According to that thread, tulpas are believed to be autonomous consciousness existing within the creator's mind, often in a form that was the creator's initial choice. By that theory, you could have a tulpa that's a cat, a creepy old woman. You could have a little kid tulpa, which seems to be very common to have little kid companion tulpas. They are supposedly entirely sentient. You can't really control them, so that's where the difference between a normal imaginary friend and a tulpa comes from, according to this community, because people there feel that an imaginary friend is such an extension of you that you'd still be able to have some input on what you do with it. With these, they just kind of do their own stuff and they're just along for the ride, kind of. They are willingly created in order to have a companion in some cases, sometimes a advisor, a muse, just to have there. The information that I was gathering was not to use this as a replacement for social interaction or people or reality, because you still need to exist here. Have it just as a companion nearby. In order to create a tulpa, I guess there's a few different ways you can do it, but the only way that I really found was you create a wonderland, and it's kind of like a meditation realm. It can look however you want it to look, but the key to creating your tulpa is very clear visualization. So you visualize this place. It needs to be the same every time, but it can look however you want it to look. And then you start to create this being. It could be like Tinkerbell, a little ball of light, whatever you want it to be. So you focus all of your energy into really seeing it. And after long enough with work in this wonderland, you'll begin to be able to have dialogue with your tulpa. And the dialogue comes in a lot of different forms. You can communicate to it mentally, or you can do it out loud if you're in private. Sometimes with it speaking back, some people feel that it's more of like an impression, and usually the impressions that they get feel kind of alien or foreign. They'll feel like an external impulse, so it doesn't feel like a normal thought coming into your head. It feels very different, and that's how they can differentiate when the tulpa is talking to them and when they're just getting normal thought. Some people have full-out hallucinations with it actually talking out loud back to them. At first, communication is pretty limited because it just depends on how often you work with your tulpa in order to create that kind of rapport. If you don't work with it, in essence, it'll kind of die because you need attention and communication in order for it to begin its life. After long enough, you'll start to get a more fluid form of communication with it. You'll understand what it does and what it means whenever you get different feelings, so your communication will pick up and be a lot faster over time. Once it's created, it's pretty much always present, unless you develop a relationship with it where it has an understanding that when you need alone time, you can be alone. But I've even heard of instances through this where people will say, hey, you need to back off, and instead of it leaving, you'll just see it chilling in the corner by itself. Sometimes it just doesn't go away once it's created. So my question to you guys is, would you want to have a tulpa? I don't know how I feel about willingly creating something that I'm seeing, because then I don't know if I would question everything else in my life if I was constantly seeing kind of a self-created hallucination. I'm just very interested in the entire idea of it. So had you guys heard of tulpas before? I know of at least one of my subscribers who had, because they told me of a really interesting theory that I want to tell you guys about, which is that some people feel Slender Man is a tulpa created by multiple people, which made a lot of sense. Once I was doing a little bit of research, I mean, everybody who's heard of the creepypasta of Slender Man has a very clear image of what Slender Man looks like. And if enough people are visualizing Slender Man standing off in forests or looking all skinny and tall in different creepy places, I think that that much energy could lend to creation, essentially. So maybe it is created now. Maybe it does exist in some way, even if it is just visually in people's minds. because it is a very real thing to some people. There's kids out there who really feel like Slender Man's real. There's people who've done sacrifices in the name of Slender Man and just crazy stuff. So maybe it is a form of a tulpa. I don't know, but it was just a really interesting concept, and I'm glad that you mentioned it to me in my comments so that way I could research it more and learn a little bit more about tulpas that I just didn't know. So I hope that this informed you guys a little bit about tulpas. If you've ever known anyone who had one, if you've made one yourself, or if you think you might make one, you have to tell me about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have just a fabulous day. Bye!